Hello, good evening. It is 8 p.m. in the United Kingdom on Thursday night. It is the 30th of April, and we're live. In the box below me, you have Luna Magdalena, the writer-director of Time of the Sixth Son. And in the box to my left, you have the wonderful Peter Owen Jones, who was in Time of the Sixth Son with us, giving some wonderful wisdom on gratitude and how it's important to say thank you for things. It's the simplest thing in the world. Peter, I absolutely love that part, and thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for asking me. It's lovely to see you both again.
I just have to say a big shout out for the NHS because I can hear everyone outside clapping.
Let's do this now.
Yay,
Yeah, they are.
everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think next Thursday, Luna, we should move this till 8:15 p.m. in the evening to give people, because in the United Kingdom, because we've got people all over the world watching Peter, so we can't be UK centric. So in the United Kingdom at 8 p.m. every Thursday evening, people are encouraged to go outside to give a round of applause to our healthcare workers to say thank you for all the work that they're doing during this pandemic time. So and we have had a couple of emails this week say, could you not start later so that you're not not conflicting with the COVID round of applause outside. So I think we'll start 15 minutes later next Thursday so that people in the United Kingdom can do that. So let's go back, Nikki. Where did you and Peter meet?
I was definitely down at your place. I can't remember how I came to be there, but we've done a series of interviews actually, Peter. I've interviewed you a couple of times at your house, and I've also interviewed you at Balkan, which was really lovely. I don't know if you ever saw that, but we were all fighting the anti-fracking movement. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
so
worked.
That's where we met, and I can start with a little story whilst we're waiting for people to come in. It was an amazing lesson for me in manifestation. It was not long after I first interviewed you, Peter, with Ben, our cameraman, and I had been gifted some air miles by a dear friend in the village, but we had absolutely no funds, and so I was looking on the internet to see how far these air miles would get me. And it would take one person to Egypt. So we didn't have anything for the filming trip I needed a little bit of funds for filming. And so I started looking at pictures online of hotels. And you very kindly stepped in and offered to pay for my hotel. And then miraculously, I was looking at images, and then I was inspired to make a shot list. And by the end of the week, I had 3 more donations, which enabled me to do the trip. And it was just right when you were doing a simple life. And, the lesson for me in that was manifestation. And we're talking now about dreaming a new reality, a new way of being into reality. And I just felt that whole imaging and visualizing and looking at images was really potent and important. But how that trip for you, a simple life, you weren't allowed to you walked the path of Francis of Assisi, and you weren't allowed to handle money during that time. How was that for you? What was your lessons, as it were, of that trip?
I feel that well, again, I mean, it's very pertinent now. We live in a system, and the kind of mantra that I'm constantly hearing is let's get the economy going again. But I mean, what kind of system, how robust can a system be if after 3 weeks of it apparently not functioning, everything around it is collapsing? And it's not that I don't want to get the economy again. It's not that I, think that, money is a hopeless tool. It's just that I believe if we only have 3 weeks in reserve, then we need something much stronger, much more beautiful, and much more robust than that. And I'm not with the politicians that are just blindly saying, let's get back to work. I think getting back to work is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our systems are really flawed and failing us now. And it seems like across the board, whether it's political or medical or educational or how we farm for our food. So I think that for a lot of people is really overwhelming. Where on earth do we start with making changes? What's your thoughts?
I think I start making changes with me. I can't expect anyone else to make changes that I want to see. And, you know, moving to where I now live, one of the first things I heard, which I'd never heard before, was be the change you want to see. And so I think it starts with me. And if I'm uneasy about the frenzy, I was talking to a great friend of mine, and he was saying, you know, we don't live in a consumer society. We're actually devouring, and consuming are quite different. And if I want to not be a devourer, not be a consumer, then I need to start to live in a way that does not harm, that does no harm. And that begins with me. It doesn't begin with anyone else.
Do no harm, absolutely. How are you perceiving what's going on around us? I mean, it's a crazy narrative in the world right now. And for me, the only way I can make sense of it, really, I don't know about you, Theo, but is to stay really grounded and really in my center. Otherwise, I can get distracted and taken off in all sorts of directions with this story and that story. What are you perceiving? What do you think is behind, maybe on a spiritual level, us being asked to stay at home like this?
Do you want me to answer? Theo, you're going to answer?
Yeah. No, it was for you. But
you go first, Peter.
Come on.
Look, I mean, the writer Arundhati Roy said that he'd come to realize that we were, I am part of a doomsday machine. The manner in which we were living, the manner in which we were living, because the skies are now empty and the birds are now being heard, the manner in which we were living is actually destroying our planet. It's destroying our home and destroying the homes of countless other species who are, in fact, innocent to our behavior. They are innocents compared to us. And so my perception is that this time is incredibly precious. We can either kind of panic and go, let's get back to normal. But normal was incredibly destructive and was heating up our atmosphere, was denuding our seas of life, was killing vast amounts of animals, insects, and birds, and reptiles. And so we've now got a precious period of silence. And this is why people, from a religious perspective, go on retreat. They go on retreat to step outside of normal so they can actually get a good view of what they're doing and how they're behaving. We have an incredible chance now to really kind of step back and look. And I think the greatest temptation within that is just to keep busy. Oh my God, I've got to keep busy. You know, I've got to keep myself busy. I need a structure. Then I've got to do this. And then I can attend to all those things that I haven't done, that I've been putting off for years. And eventually, now 5 weeks in, I would say a lot of people have arrived in the loft. You know, that they've done the whole house, they've done the garden, and now finally they're in the loft. And in about a week, they're going to have sorted out the loft, and then the shit is really going to hit the fan because they would have done it all.
But I think that's true, and I think the shit will hit the fan is actually quite accurate. I think there are a lot of people who may well be in trouble actually when having to face that space of just themselves.
But I mean, we were living in a frenzy. We were part of a frenzy, frenetic activity, absolutely, you know, crazy. Right now, at this time of year in the UK, we have these wonderful flies that are kind of forming balls of life, and they're there, and what they're doing is they're dancing. It's basically for love and sex. They're beautiful. But we were living like that all the time. In the West, we've abandoned our day of rest, and we were just going faster and faster. And everything was heating up. Everything is heating up. We have 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe, where we're not embroiled in that activity, in that frenzy. It's precious. It's laced with tragedy, of course, but it was always coming. We're burning out. That's what we're doing. And we need to know that. And I'm fed up with the old story of, oh, we've got to get the economy going. Bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
It's that that's killing everything. It's that mindset that's killing everything. We need to find a place of peace. And now we have 6 weeks, perhaps 7, 8, of potential of peace, and it's terrifying us. We're unsafe. We feel like we've lost our bearings, our grounding. But this is a great place to be. This is where change is fermented. This is where dreams are dreamt. And this is where we can dare to be different and step outside of normal, which in fact held most of us prisoner. I don't want to be a prisoner. That's not for me anymore.
When you talk about being held prisoner, that's exactly the conversation I had with a friend this afternoon. We were talking about this, this lockdown period or sacred, isolation or whatever you want to call it. But, we were talking about friends of ours that have worked in the system since they were 21 years old, whatever that system might be, to go to work on a Monday morning and pretty much come back on a Friday evening, and they get the weekends with their kids. But I don't think, other than the sort of 3 weeks holiday that they're allowed a year, and it's they don't get to spend quality time with their families. And I know some people will have found that really tough. I'm very lucky. I work from home, so I'm very used to having my children around. I take them to school and I'm around often. But for those people that are just, leaving the house at 6:30 in the morning and usually coming back, 7 o'clock in the evening to kiss their kids goodnight before they go to bed, this is the longest that a lot of them have ever spent with their families without actually booking time off to go on a holiday. And how precious is that? Really, really. I mean, there's so many different aspects of this. As you said, it comes with incredible tragedy as well. There are some horrible things that I'm hearing from hospitals, very young nurses dying, and that you would not wish on anyone. But there's always light and there's always dark. And with this, if we're trying to look for the positive in things, then we're seeing many positive things coming out of this as well.
But for those who are incredibly brave, those who are on the front line, and I don't like the whole militarization language around what we're all going through, that we will prevail, we will defeat the front line, all of this. This is all militaristic language, and we need to learn to put that aside. But for those who are risking their lives on our behalf, showing incredible bravery, what's it all for? What was their sacrifice of love, really? What's that for? That we can go back to, drinking in the Rat and Carrot. That we can turn up on a Sunday and say, "Come on, you Blues." Is that really what it's all for? Is that what they've sacrificed themselves for? I don't know.
I don't know that I know the answer to that. I know that it's, for some people it's a crisis, for others it's an opportunity. And I guess it's, it's that duality again. It's which choice you make of how you want to live. It's very clear to me that there are still many sleepwalkers in the world. And I don't say that in any derogatory way. It's really about time that we grew up and became the adult of our species. it seems, there's been a lot of really childish behavior, even from our politicians. And it's like, would the real leaders please stand up?
Well, I think our politicians are, definitely, I think the man that leads the USA is completely out of his depth. And it's very sad to see that he doesn't appear to understand compassion. And it's terribly upsetting for me to kind of watch that and to watch what's happening in America, especially. I mean, all over the world, but America seems to be being kind of hit hardest of all at the moment. But again, I just would ask, this is an opportunity to question reality. And as human beings, we have two great gifts. The first is to know love, and the second is to create reality. We are creators of reality.
Mm.
What type of reality do we want to hand to our children? What type of reality do we want to consciously create? And I don't want a reality that's based entirely on trade. There's something just so cold about that.
Yeah.
I would like a reality which puts the care of our planet first, and the care of our children coming after that, and that does not treat human beings as being more important than any other species. That's the type of reality I would like to try and work towards.
Yeah.
But basing reality on the needs of trade and economics is a completely foolish thing to be doing.
Yeah. So we were having a conversation the other day, and you were saying that we humans are part of an ecosystem, and that seems to be what many of our elders have been saying. Is this, there's no distinction. That tree over there, that's my grandmother, my cousin, the way off down by the river, and there is no separation. But you were making the point also that we are made up of many, many different life forms living within us.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
I think you said something like 1 in 10 is human. Do you want to talk about that? It's sort of the micro macro, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, I mean, 1 in 10 of our cells is our functioning body is the human cell. The rest are bacteria and viruses, which enable chemical reactions to take place. On my elbow, there we are. On that elbow, on every single elbow, there are 6 different types of bacteria living that prevent the skin from cracking each time I bend it.
Wow.
So I am a community. I am not this separate thing called a human being. I am only able to stand up and breathe because of all the other life forms within me and on me, enabling me to do that. That is both humbling and beautiful, but it ends this terrible idea of an isolated human being. There is no such thing. I am a collection of organisms, and I love that. I'm much more comfortable with that than just being this kind of one genetic operating machine. None of us are that. A dog isn't that. A cat isn't that. A budgerigar isn't that. A tree isn't that. A tree is a collection of so many different life forms. We live in a world which is activated and only kind of works because of communion, a communion between species, between bacteria. All the latest research is beautiful, saying that trees are communicating with each other. Now, this is wonderful, beautiful stuff. And as human beings, we need to start to say, I'm part of something, and it is part of me. And what I do to the leaf, I do to myself. What I do to the dolphin, I do to me. What I do to the sky, I do to me. I do to you, I do to your children, your grandmother. we are all linked. We are all in this together. And that to me is a very different reality and a very different way of being, to saying, oh, I've just, I've got to make as much money here as possible. That's so narrow.
Yeah.
That diminishes who I am, and it diminishes our society, and it diminishes our species. And I want no part of it.
Mm. This macro spectrum, if you like. I remember one of our elders, Antar, saying when I interviewed him, he was saying, when our cells get together, the cells create tissues, and then the tissues create bone and muscles, and then creates a human. And when the humans get together, they create a village, and then villages, or a tribe, and then tribes get together and create a village and a town and a city. And he went on and on until he related us to just being part of the cosmos. And it was such a beautiful analogy, the way he put it. So that illusion of separation, because that's what it is. We're not separated at all. People think we are.
No,
exactly, Peter. When you spoke about the trees earlier, I don't know if you watched that beautiful program Judi Dench did on the BBC a couple of years ago about trees, and amazing that that there is this entire underground, almost internet that the trees use, and if a tree is being attacked by bugs in one location, it will send out a distress signal, and another tree will release pollen that will then blow through the air, that will then make those bugs uncomfortable, so they'll leave. So they protect each other, and they can see all this now, and they can see inside the tree and how many hundreds of thousands of roots and the upper roots that it's made up of. Astonishing. And I watched that beautiful film all about fungi the other weekend with my children, and again, understanding the mycelium and how that works under the ground, and how anything that dies in nature just gets eaten up by the fungi, and it goes back into the earth. And it's just as we do as human beings, we go back into the earth, and then out of that comes new birth again. It's astonishing how it's all connected.
But I mean, aren't we incredibly fortunate as a generation? We're the first generation to have this clear knowledge. We're the first generation to see a picture of the planet Pluto. We're the first generation to know the vastness of the universe. We have all of this. What are we going to do with it? Well, how does that change us? How does that change my idea of being me? How does that change what it is to be a human being? And this is the great challenge. Are we to continue in the old template just because it's more convenient? Are we to go back to normal? Or are we to take this incredible knowledge of which science is giving us, which I think many religions have been kind of intuiting for centuries? And are we going to allow that? Are we going to have the courage to let that change us? To let that take us forward? If we know that we're not separate, can we continue to behave as if we are?
I think it's about passing these messages on to our children and to the next generation. When I hear how my children speak and how their friends speak, and how we went into a restaurant and they brought out plastic straws. My children, without any prompting, said, "Could you take those away, please? We don't want them. They're going to end up in the ocean." And it's just those little compounding efforts, and letting children see programs about mycelium, and letting them understand about nature and understanding about the trees, and the fact that all this information is there and they're hungry for information. It's quite interesting, because when my kids have what we call tech time, where they're going to have a little bit of time where they go on technology, they go and search things, and they're interested in finding out about these things. So I think it's our role as parents and grandparents to pass this on to the next generation. As you said, your question was, how do we take this incredible knowledge we have? I think the biggest thing we can do is to impart it to the next generation and compound it, then that will go and spider out just like the mycelium does, would be my hope.
I share that.
You were talking about progress, Peter.
Oh man, yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, then again, yes. I mean, again, we have 6 weeks, 7 maybe, The idea, I would like to again ask a question, and it is, what is progress, and who defines that?
Mm.
Is progress to be purely technological? Are we to know it in those terms? Driverless cars. You know, there was a big thing. You know, everyone's holding up this as being the great progress, the great future. We can all have driverless cars. We're killing the planet, and yet we can all have driverless cars. Isn't that fantastic? But our idea, I think there are two things I'd like to say. Firstly, I think our future has been stolen from us. And this is the greatest tragedy of our time. That when my children look forward, when I look forward, you know, we're looking into something.
I think Peter's internet has frozen. Nikki, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Here he comes.
Yeah, and so
we just missed that, Peter. Sorry, you froze for a moment.
I'd just like to say that I feel our future has been stolen from us by the bankers and by those who want to define progress in purely technological terms. And this, I think, is one of the greatest tragedies of our time. That looking forward over the next 100 years, all we can see is a very steep hill that we now all have to climb.
Mm.
And secondly, we've allowed it to happen. We've kind of all of us have handed over the creation of the future to a small minority of businessmen and women who are merely acting for their own profit. And we've just kind of let them take hold of it. And I would like to take it back again and say, the future involves all of us, my children, your children, every living being on this planet. And we need to have a discussion about what type of future we all would like to leave our children. And that needs to happen urgently. But we can only have that if we really start to question the current model of progress that again has been hoisted upon us as something purely labor-saving or technological. There is nothing in there about love.
No.
And there is nothing in there about compassion for all life. There's nothing in there about knowing ourselves differently. And these realities, I would like to very much to put these realities on the table and not have our future firstly stolen, but secondly defined in purely material terms. I think that is going to lead us into a place of great danger.
But how do we have a discussion? I mean, there's a lot of people feeling it, what you're talking about at the moment. But how do we get our voices heard? Where is there a platform to discuss, actually, apart from here?
Well, we have wonderful films like The Time of the Sixth Son. We can only... I made a deal with myself at the beginning of the year that if I disagreed with something, I wasn't going to be mute. I was going to stand up and say, no, I'm sorry. That's a boundary that I have and that I'm not going to cross it. I'm not going to agree with people because it's more convenient. I'm not going to buy this because it's more convenient. I'm not going to say this because it's more comfortable. You know, we're going to have to, all of us, start to stand up and speak our truth and be brave. You know, this is how change occurs. And look, at the moment, the person who is perhaps being the most outspoken in relation to the future on the planet is an 18-year-old young woman from Scandinavia. You know, that's the reality. Where are the rest of us?
Yeah.
Where am I? I mean, I think it's beautiful, but, you know, I am put to shame by this.
Yeah, I feel ashamed by that too. Yeah.
I mean, thank God for her existence. And thank God for the fact that she says our house is on fire. She's right. She's right. But she's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old young woman from Sweden. You know, this is, it's wonderful, but where have we been? Where have we been?
I mean, we just
know that there are plenty of people actually doing very, very good things in the world.
Yeah, there are.
But it was very easy for the media to pick that up as a story and to push Greta all over the world. Whereas, there are some astonishingly brilliant young people and some astonishingly brilliant middle-aged people and some astonishingly brilliant old people that are doing the same thing. But unless it fits the agenda of the mainstream media, we don't get to hear about it unless you're looking at alternative news sources.
Well, then let's stop listening to mainstream media. I mean, it's just feeding us. It's just feeding us junk mostly.
I think you'll find them. You are definitely, to kind of the term, preaching to the choir in this group.
Yeah, but I mean,
from the Facebook group, I can see that many of them are paying a lot of attention to what they're being fed by the.
Well, I mean, most of it's junk food. So, I mean, and it's propaganda, and the news media is about two things. It's about violence and money. Basically, that's what it's about. Yeah. And
well, it's about manipulation, also extreme manipulation.
Yeah, but once you know you're being manipulated, it kind of doesn't work that well anymore. And but I mean, I think if you see it as being about violence and money, then it's then it becomes quite repulsive, actually.
What's your have you got any questions coming up, Theo? So we don't.
No, I've been so entranced by the conversation. I'm not looking. I'm going to look now. If you have got questions and you'd like to put them to Peter or to Luna or to I, please could you put them and type them out again, because there's so many things coming in, because we have people watching on YouTube, we have people watching on our Facebook page, and we have people watching on our Facebook group. So each of you will see individual conversations, but there's over 200 of you currently across all those platforms. So all the questions come in on the platform that I'm looking at. So I'll have a look now, and then.
I'll tell you, who's having a look. This idea of utopia, Peter, I was having a conversation with Lynn Franks the other day, and we all want to create a new world where we walk more lightly on the earth, where we relate to each other in a new and a different and a more loving and respectful way. But as long as we have that foot in the 3D, where we have to pay our rent and everything, it's really hard. I find it really hard. I know my friends find it really hard to then take that aspect of us that really wants to be out there in 5D, whatever you want to call it, for the sake of naming it something. What do you believe it's possible to have a collective utopia?
Yeah.
Or is it something that is individual to each of us? Maybe collectively it doesn't. Maybe it's not possible. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think my utopia might be slightly different to your utopia, which is going to be different. I think we're all going to have a different kind of utopia. But I mean, there's one simple answer: is kind of turn the system on its head.
I agree. I used to make a living from turning people upside down, so I spent a lot of my time upside down in the world.
Well, I mean, let's all live with less. The whole system relies on us continually craving more, so that we're in a state of constant agitation. It's rather like a junkie, it's kind of making junkies out of all of us. So let's just go, no, I'm going to live with as less as possible. I'm going to live with the bare minimum, and I'd like to be time rich and materially poor.
Make that the new cool.
And I choose to own as few things as possible, and I choose to live as lightly as possible, and I choose to live as responsibly. That to me is living responsibly now, given what we face. But let's all. I have to give up my addiction to shopping, to material, to wanting to buy sparkly stuff, chocolate peanuts, all of that old stuff.
How's that going, Peter?
Going very well. But no, let's not feed the monster.
Yeah.
Don't feed the monster.
So that is the same message.
Live with less.
Sorry. That's the same message as David Attenborough. It's absolutely what he's saying. Just live with less.
Yeah.
Don't waste.
Yeah. We don't actually need a lot of stuff. I'm sharing my house with someone now, and some of my children are moving in, and the person that I'm sharing with was amazed at how much washing I had. They said, "I'm going to do some washing. Can I have your washing for the week?" And I gave her a pair of pants.
That's great.
I mean, either that's completely revolting or it's something to be admired. But I mean, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
We don't need to, it's all this gorging, this devouring. It's making us unwell. Live with less. Take time, breathe, love your children, love your partner.
I love the line in the movie where Sadhguru says the fundamental nature of a human being is wherever he is, whatever he is, somehow his present condition is not enough.
Yeah.
He wants to be something more than what he is. Some people are gathering things, some people are gathering money, some people are gathering property, power, pleasure, love, knowledge. It doesn't matter what. This longing to expand is a longing for the unbounded, because wherever you reach, it's not enough. You want to be something more. Until one knows the boundlessness of his existence, this longing will not stop.
Beautiful. I mean, how beautiful.
Says it all. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, we have to, yes, we have to accept the boundless nature of our existence. That's quite a tough one.
Right, let's have a look here. Peter, I've got a question from a lady called Lizzie. She says, as an Anglican priest, what is your hope for a better world? The return of Christ or consciousness? And are we experiencing this, do you think?
Oh. My hope for a better world is that I would say two things: that religions have got to stop competing with each other and have got to start to listen to each other and learn from each other. I have to sit down with my Muslim brothers and sisters and hear what they have to say, and I have to listen with respect. And I have so much to learn from them. I have so much to learn from my Baha'i brothers and sisters, from my Buddhist brothers and sisters, from my Hindu brothers and sisters, from my Jain brothers and sisters. We have such great teaching to give each other. Let's stop this. Let's stop this cancer of competitive behavior and learn to love and embrace each other. So as an Anglican priest, that would be, that's where I am right now. I kind of feel less and less Anglican as I get older. I think to be a priest is the greatest privilege that any human being can have. And I'm humbled by it every single day. But in terms of Christ consciousness, I thought it would fade as I get older. I thought the stardust would kind of dwindle and everything would become kind of slightly dull. But I have to tell you that the opposite has happened, and I have been more amazed, more in a state of wonder, more humble, more in a state of gratitude than I ever would imagine 20 years ago. And that I feel that I am barely at the beginning of this journey. And so I do not want to distinguish between the religious path of one religion and the religious path of another. This is the human yearning for eternity, the human yearning for love, the human yearning for grace and humility. And that I would sit around any table with any man or woman of any sexuality, of any gender, race, creed, and color. And let's sit down and let's talk about this, because we can do that really well. We have so much to give each other and so much to learn from each other. that's where I am as a minority strategy.
I wonder what we can do with our children, with that sort of, maybe the generation of your kids, the sort of 7 to 12-year-olds or whatever, that, you know, in their generation of being at school with their, you know, I'd read something somewhere about kids interacting with kids, say in Africa or whatever, and between them in you know, in the space of a decade, probably one could turn most of the world around. You know, they're so powerful, our kids.
I think that's really beautiful. You know, we have the technology. This is the first time I've ever done this. You know, there is no reason why schools in England can't be sharing lessons with schools in Africa.
Exactly.
There's no reason why schools in South America can't be sharing lessons with schools in North America. You know, I mean, let's open this right up. But again, we're going to have to relax our addictions and our ideas around nationality and nationhood and all of that complete.
And our borders.
Yeah, and all of that nonsense.
There's so much fear blocking that, though.
Well, I mean, I remember when I was traveling a lot, people would say, "Where are you from?" And I would go, "Oh, I'm from England." And then I just got really bored with it. And so I started saying, "I'm from planet Earth. Where are you from?" And that changed everything. That just changed the whole thing within, you know, 2 or 3 seconds. They look at me and they go,
"Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I am from planet Earth. I happen to live on an island that happens to be called England, but I'm from planet Earth."
In fact, Luna, do you know our lovely friend Amit from the gathering that we go to in Wazinga? He's put something together called inspiraleducation.com. I'm just pulling it up on the site. And Inspiral Education enables an international network of students to learn together to develop their global competencies and build their sense of global citizenship. And that's exactly what his project is doing. It's about bringing children from all over the world together through this medium to allow them to learn from each other without the boundaries of seas and oceans and flights and things. So yeah, inspiraleducation.com if anybody wants to have a look at that, because he's a wonderful man doing wonderful work.
See, that's great work. That's the work. That's great work. You know, what a beautiful thing to be doing.
Yeah. And so simple.
Talk about that, Luna, actually. He'd be a wonderful guest.
Yeah.
Very good.
Let us know, guys, if you want to have Amit coming on and talking about a new educational.
I'd like Amit coming on talking about it.
I second that. Looks like he's on.
I'll put it in. I'm going to go back to another question from Caroline Carey, who was also in the movie, and she's asked the question: what do you believe the church's role is with this utopia?
I believe the church's role is to actually wake up and to really decide whether it wants to be part of this conversation or whether it wants to continue in the kind of theological dead ends that it's been going down for the last 200 years. And that, that's my view. There are more PhDs among members of the clergy in the Church of England than there are in any other profession. So that either we're going to put down our books, put on our robes, and just go out of our driveway and turn left and keep walking.
Yeah.
Or we're going to just rely on our books. I would say it's time to put the books down, leave our houses, and just go and live on the road for a period of time until we actually start to come to our senses again. And then we might have a right to talk about poverty. We might have a right to talk about blind love. I do not believe we have a right to talk about any of these things having spent 3 years in Cambridge.
Yep. I think you're right.
I'm just looking through here, and people are writing beautiful comments, but we haven't got more questions. So if you've got questions that you would like to ask or put to any of us, please do type them into the comments, and we can.
They didn't have many questions on the last one as well.
I think a lot of people are just getting
Always get a question.
engaged and absorbed in what's being discussed.
Yeah. So one of my questions to you, Peter, then while we're waiting for a few questions to come in, was I was thinking about you with your flock. And actually the thing that initiated me partly to make this film was reading an article about, I think it was David Beckham and some other celebs being the future mentors of the next generation. And I was like so disheartened. And that's why I wanted to get elders and people I consider to be mentors to talk. And there's a severe lack of shepherds. I was thinking about it because as I was reading your blurb about tending your flock every day, and you literally tend your flock in your parish, but why are we so short of shepherds? So many sheep and so few shepherds.
Are you talking? The whole thing. I'll ignore this kind of reverb. I actually worked as a shepherd for a local farmer during lambing time. Are you talking about that type of shepherding, or are you talking about the religious metaphor?
I'm talking about metaphorically on all levels. You've got your sheep flock, you have your parish flock, but also there's another flock out there that you talk to.
I don't know. I mean, a shepherd is primarily concerned with the sheep. Isn't concerned with necessarily keeping the barn upright. You know, his main or her main focus is on the well-being of the sheep. At the moment, the Christian church is kind of overly concerned with its own survival, and I take no joy in saying that, but I have to say I think that's the truth, and therefore, sadly, parish priests like myself are not being the shepherds that we should be and that we could be, because we're constantly running around trying to come up with ways of getting more people into church. That's really not the point.
No.
The point is to love, and that's where we need to begin from. But then I would fall out with the church's institution about this. And but you know, unless the church embodies the model of love, which is the shepherd model as embodied by Christ, then we're going nowhere. And that's all I have to say.
I mean, I did mean it metaphorically that a shepherd is concerned with his flock, with his people, just like for a mentor or a leader. The concern is the happiness and the well-being of the people, and you're concerned with keeping the structures up and running efficiently for that. So yeah, I wonder where our really true leaders and mentors are, because I think the majority of us are hugely disappointed with those that run our countries. Firle.
Yeah, I think everyone has the right to be very disappointed with me, with my behaviour. You know, by and large, you know, I hang around too much. I'm spending too much time drinking with friends. You know, and that's the kind of least of it. What has happened to righteousness? What has happened to piety? You know, these can be great forces for good and for change and for beauty, and that is that is the dream that perhaps we should, sadly, and I have to take responsibility for that as well.
Sounds like you're being tough on yourself, but yeah, we'd all have to take responsibility for a lot of.
But then again, you know, I have to say, you know, I'm a little uneasy about the whole thing of a priestly caste. You know, it's you know, and therefore I would feel much more. I would feel much healthier, in a sense. The best priest that I have met, you know, would run a mile if I suggested to them that this was the role they were performing at the time. I met a mountain guide once, and he was a priest of the mountains. He was absolutely extraordinary, the way in which he related several farmers I know I would describe as priests of the land, and several people I know working for wildlife trusts I would describe as the priest of the birds, the priestess of the butterflies. This I'm much more comfortable with than just having this one man or one woman attached to a little group of churches being described as a priest. I think it's a very narrow way of looking at it. And those who have my respect and my love are these extraordinary men and women who have dedicated their lives to being the priests of the natural world, the priests of the trees, the priests of the mountains. And I want to honor them.
Yeah. I mean, when I talk with you, I don't really talk to you as a priest, Peter, but as a human being, of course.
Yes, that is.
Yes.
Yeah, I cannot escape.
And you have opinions and things that are probably, I'm sure, totally outside the priesthood.
I'm kind of I don't really know anymore. I don't really kind of know what mainstream priesting is all about. I would imagine it's about trying to fill churches, but again, I think I'm much more convinced by, as St. Francis did, embodying a model of love which reflects the sanctity of all life.
You fill your church with fantastic raves and parties.
I wasn't going to mention that. I've been trying to keep that quiet.
We'll delete that bit.
Yeah, you didn't hear that.
No, nothing to see here. Move along, please. No,
move along. Yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm going to put a question up from Jason Kimpton that I don't know which way this is going to go. Peter, do you not think that Trump might be an important catalyst to the shift? Never seen so much debate and engagement by what he says and does. God may be moving in a mysterious way indeed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think he's great. He's a kind of perfect film baddie. And, he's just a villain, a fantastic villain. And, we've elected him. And the leader of the free world has ended up as this man. And it's fabulous because he's larger than life and a complete narcissist. And he's a very funny guy. He's hilarious. I think he will be a huge catalyst for change. My vote for president, I have to say, and I'm being serious about it. Why don't we all get together and actually get behind Charles Eisenstein?
Hallelujah. Marianne Williamson and Charles Eisenstein. I absolutely agree.
When you look, I can think of one country at the moment in the world where everyone's turning their head and going, have you seen what's going on in New Zealand? Mm-hmm. Kind of going, oh, You can have sense, you can have compassion, you can have love at the heart of politics. But I think it's not Donald Trump's fault. He's a businessman, and I think businessmen, successful businessmen, should never be allowed to run a country. It's just really not a very good idea at all. It'll never happen again.
I have one thing to say about Trump, not on a personality level, more on a esoteric level, but I've always had that very strong inner gut feeling that all is not what it seems.
Well, you could say that about the three of us, Nikki, really.
Yeah, I could.
No, I think the serious point is, I think the two types of people should not run countries. One of them is those in religious orders. I don't think that's ever a good idea. And the second is businessmen and women. I think anyone that makes their money by fleecing everyone else is not the person to be running a country.
Yep, I agree with you there.
Really not a good idea.
I think he is a tremendous catalyst for change,
Yeah, I agree.
And when again, going back to the mainstream media, when people are that desperate to take somebody like that out with any which way, shape or form they can, and he somehow keeps batting it off and keeps staying there, and maybe there is a bigger purpose to all of this that none of us have a grasp on yet. Who knows?
No, I think it's kind of like you know, he is, to me, he represents capitalism at its most ugly. And capitalism is pretty ugly, whichever way you look at it. But he embodies kind of pure-blooded, you know, capitalism. And it's great. We can see it. We can see what it's really like. You know, it's not hidden behind smiles and handshakes and, you know, thieves wearing suits. This is really what it's like. Let's take a good long look and decide whether we want this. If people want it, fine. I don't want it. But if other people do, they have every right to do it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a question from Pamela, who says, Peter, what are your views about us all standing in our personal sovereignty rather than looking for others to take the lead? Is it not time for us all to take equal responsibility?
Yes. Yes, it is. But taking equal responsibility comes with great moral responsibility as well. It isn't equal responsibility, it's moral responsibility, I think. And, you know, are we grown up as a society for each of us to take that moral responsibility rather than hand it over to a judicial system, hand it over to politicians, hand it over to business leaders and priests? My God, you want to hand it over to priests? But first of all, we've got to be grown up enough to each really take more responsibility, which means looking at the stuff we don't really want to look at. But yes, the more individual responsibilities are really taken on board, the healthier our society will be. Because individual responsibility accepts that no one is an island and that I cannot function without the help of my brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. It's definitely about collaboration and collective effort now. The we, not the I.
It is.
Yeah.
There's another question here, which is along the similar lines. How do we empower the sheep to be autonomous, empowered agents of empowering transformation? I guess by the sheep, Joss Angel means the people.
Well, I would say that they need to know how beautiful they are. They need to know how wonderful they are. They need to know that together they can outsmart the wolves, which they can do. And I work with sheep. And, you know, last week I was in the lambing barns, and they are extraordinary. I mean, every animal is extraordinary. Every life form is extraordinary. But what I've learned from sheep is they care for their young with such dignity and such grace. It puts most human beings to shame. So I would say the sheep just need to know how extraordinary they really are. Thank you for that question. It's great.
I was trying to look somewhere. I think Bob Eden said something about the sheep being afraid of the wolf, and I can't find the comment now. But anyway, it was pertinent to what we were just talking about there. And Carly says perhaps not calling them sheep may help. I would agree.
Yes, I agree. I did think about that when I said it first off. Thank you. Put it in my place.
I'm just trying to see. Luna, have you got any more questions? Because oh, here we go. Let's have a look here. Peter, what? Dirk has written this. I think Dirk is from Holland. Peter, what can't we be a bit afraid of that is so right to the right people? Dirk, I don't really understand the question. Could you rephrase that?
A cryptic crossword question. I'd like to answer that as it is, actually.
Okay. I'll put it back.
What can't we? I'm a bit afraid. But it is so right to the right people. Why can't we be a bit afraid? And that is something right to the right people. Yes, we should be a bit afraid. And we should be especially afraid of who we assume are the right people. They often wear the most beautiful disguises. There we are, that's my answer.
Thank you. Sue says, what do you think of all leaders being encouraged to go out in the wild and doing rites of passage at least twice a year?
Hallelujah.
That would be wonderful.
Well, yes. My only answer is twice a year minimum. I would. We need to reconnect with the natural world in ways that deeply affect our day. I would say that all leaders need to have
therapy.
I would say that for the church, every single church leader, every single parish priest, every single bishop, every single archbishop needs to have spent at least 3 years on the road living without money. And then after that, then they will then can go on and take a parish and do that type of job of marrying and burying and caring for and being cared for, which is probably even harder. And I would say the same of our leaders, that it is a great responsibility, but it is often compromised greatly by ambition, which is, if you look at the kind of body language of the House of Commons, and I had to go and chair a meeting once in the House of Commons, and the energy in that building is just dark and very heavy and really uncomfortable. And so, I mean, we need to go in there and just put some love in there to start with. But again, I think that we would all benefit from our politicians taking at least 2 weeks minimum every year in silence, so that they didn't actually speak. And this isn't to get them to shut up, it's actually to get them to listen. And we need to start to say, we had this whole mindfulness thing, a couple of years ago, and I was kind of deeply unsure about that. But I would there needs to be a bit of spiritual discipline within the whole culture of leadership. And it's not that we don't need leaders, we do. It's just the type of leaders that we need. We don't seem to be producing at this very critical time. So yes, anything that will just kind of allow for wisdom. What we lack is wisdom. We have cleverness, but we don't have wisdom. We need wisdom right now, very good.
Yeah, I concur.
I also find it quite astonishing how in the United Kingdom, the politicians, when you watch them in the House of Commons, Prime Minister's question time, for example, behave worse than classrooms that I've taught in. The jeering and the shouting and I know it's part of it. It's a show, but surely these people, these are the people we've given the responsibility to. And I watched, occasionally if it comes up on a video on the internet, I'm like, I just can't believe they still behave like this.
I'm angry. I'm so angry at them for the power that they hold, that we have given them, and they behave like that.
Here's a good question. Sorry, Peter, go on.
Yeah, but I mean, we have a combative model of politics, and we don't have a supportive model of politics.
Yeah.
And as long as we're happy with this combative model of politics, it's actually very negative, because it's about wounding the others so they can't actually stand up and do what they want to do.
And every decision is for the next vote. It's not for the next generation in 20 or 30 years' time.
But again, we have an old system, and it's quite clear that our old system can't cope with our new knowledge. I think in the Bible they talk about new wine and old wineskins.
Yeah.
I don't say this with any glee, but it's either going to self-elect to change, or there will be revolution. And you know, either way, it's the system we have right now cannot last, and that's all there is to it. Yeah. Adrian McCleary, do you think humans are born greedy, or is this something society creates? I think humans are born with desire and longing, and I think we're born with great insecurity because we're only here for 60, 70, 80 years. We all know within our own selves that, you know, this is a very short time. And so we want something to hang on to. And, you know, that might be, I'm just going to get stuff. I'm just going to concentrate on getting stuff. And, you know, if you watch a lot of mainstream television, it's actually about stuff, because stuff takes our mind off the fact that we're not actually here for very long, and it's all an illusion anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're born greedy. I think we're born uncertain and unsure. We're born with these incredible desires, the desire to be held, the desire for love. We're born with hunger and life are tied. So it's hugely challenging being a human being. But I think it is our insecurity that has made us greedy. And we're not born naturally greedy. I want to do that.
I think it's... Sorry to interrupt, Peter. I think it also stems down to a very deep wound that so many people around the planet share. Different stories, but same deep wounding. And to make to fill that hole or to make it okay, I think that's where those desires and the greed and things come in to fill that hole. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's one illusion I'd really like to mention, and that's the illusion of ownership.
Yes, please do.
You know, greed is about possession, and it is about whatever I have, I cannot feel satiated. It doesn't fill me. It's like eating a meal and feeling empty, and therefore it's that engenders greed. But as long as we believe in the illusion of ownership, that we actually own anything.
Yeah.
You know, some human beings believe they actually own cats, which is extraordinary. But you know, it's this illusion of ownership which we have to let go. We merely borrow stuff from either the past generations, or we're borrowing it from future generations. We're going to have to give it back when we die, and so let's take care of it. But it's not ours. This computer isn't mine. This phone isn't mine. This hat isn't mine. These glasses are not mine. I happen just to be using them at the moment, but they're not mine. I don't own anything, and I don't want to believe that I do. I don't even own the body I live. It is merely borrowed from the planet, from the universe for this time.
Oh, that's beautiful. On the sort of ownership of land and stuff, Polly Higgins spoke with such clarity about that.
She did.
And I think it was almost a year ago. It's very close, the anniversary to when she died. But
it was Easter weekend.
Yeah, to make ecocide law is just so important. She is about 5 years ago. I interviewed her, and she said, in 5 years it will become law, and it's so important.
Well, I mean, we're beginning to understand that. You know, we have. I mean, the elephant in the room is the agriculture, is the manner in which we farm, and that all the evidence is pointing to the fact that the way in which we're farming, very sadly, is devastating the natural world.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I would ask our leaders to do one thing, it is to really clean up agriculture as a matter of absolute urgency. all the decline in all the species kind of tends to point towards that.
Yeah.
And we need to all take responsibility for that. We need to help the farmers to change to organic systems of production. And this needs to happen as a matter of process.
Absolutely. We're so fortunate where we live, to have two Rudolf Steiner biodynamic farms.
There you are.
Either side of our village is just, you don't have to go to a supermarket without in the woods. Yeah.
But again, this comes down to living more simply. What do I need? Do I really need, do I need to eat meat? Do I need to eat dairy products? Do I need to have 3 meals a day? All this is related. And if we're going to dream up a world in which every species, human and our brothers and sisters in the natural world, can thrive, then human beings are going to have to start to deal with these very basic questions.
And stop eating meat, yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that the first 5 books in the Bible, and I'm not a preacher, but the kind of food laws in Judaism, that's what they're designed to do. And the laws in Judaism around how we treat the land, every so often there should be a jubilee where we don't farm, where we don't till the fields, where we let everything rest. There is something inherently beautiful about that. We need to get back to a spiritual relationship with the land. And this is where our indigenous brothers and sisters have so much to teach. And we need to sit down and listen and hear them speak. And because they are the ones that have held this flame, they are the ones that have this wisdom. And we need to hear it, and we need to hear them urgently.
Do you talk about that at all, Peter? Do you teach that in your sermons or weekends?
Yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that, the last surviving indigenous, we're all to a certain degree. I'm an indigenous Celt. I'm an indigenous Scots-Irish long-haired boy. But those who are living in much closer proximity to the land than I am, I need to hear how it works for them.
Yeah.
How they manage to survive right on the edges without the things that I deem as essential. And they are the holders of wisdom in this area. The American native, the beautiful Native American traditions. I need to hear from them. I need to hear from the Aboriginal traditions in Australia, the Inuit traditions of the Arctic areas. These people have the key to wisdom and how to treat the land. We need to sit down and listen to them.
Jorge last week was talking from an Andean perspective of Peru about how every 4 years they will leave the land fallow for 1 year.
Absolutely.
And always have done.
Yeah, but our system that we have in the West, we couldn't do that because we're not structured to live like that.
We used to. During the war years, we would leave. Well, before the war, we'd leave a field fallow.
But spiritually, a system that honors the land in that way is much healthier than a system that doesn't.
Yeah.
And the karma that produces. And that allows also the other species that depend on that land to recover from our usage of it. We need to start to really place the environment and our relationship with it as completely central to all our politics, all our education, all that we do. The moment we have the economy as central, but it's
should be the mother.
Yeah, this is a road to disaster. We need to put the environment at the center of everything that we do and dream.
We'd never have fracking or drilling if that were the case, if we could put the mother first.
No, absolutely. And this is the big change in consciousness. When people talk about a change in consciousness, it is about replacing the economy at the center of everything and putting the environment at the center of everything.
So how do we do that, Peter?
We do that by rebelling.
Rebelling, yeah.
We do that by saying,
Not in my name.
yeah, not in my name, not in my name. And long, Extinction Rebellion understand that, and they're absolutely right. There's no other way around it. We need to rebel. We need to all stand up now and go, we don't want to have the economy at the center of everything. We want to the environment.
I think you're right. I wish it wasn't that way, but I think you're right. It's we've had so many of these conversations. They're being had up and down the country. We all know what's wrong. We all know what we want. I think a lot of people know what we want. But how? This machine that has its death grip on everyone, I don't know how you get out of it. I actually honestly don't know.
Well, you live with you elect not to feed it.
Yes.
So you say, right, I'm going to, rather than spending a life trying to acquire more, which is a model of success we're all fed with, I'll start off in a bedsit, and then I'll get a little semi, and then I'll get my own detached house, and then I'll end up in a castle. It's insane.
Usually end up in a caravan.
Yeah.
And all of that with a mortgage, death grip in French, death, mortgage, grip, mortgage, death grip. It's all hidden in plain sight.
Just live with less. Choose to live lightly. Choose to live with less. Choose to live with less possessions. And then you're not feeding that system. Quite the opposite. And then we could all get together. We could start something called a public union, where we all say that bank is behaving appallingly, so let's all withdraw our business from it. That would produce change almost overnight.
Yes, that's right.
All we need to do is get together and say that supermarket is behaving ethically appallingly. Let's not shop there for a month. And boy, believe me, everything, we could change the world within 2 months.
I don't know.
We just need to get together and say this is what we want, and we're going to use our power within the system, which is monetary power, because it's a monetary system. We use it to support the things that we want, and not to consciously, not to support the things we don't.
Absolutely. When the Nestle CEO came out and said that water was not a right of the human being, I never bought another Nestle product, and that was 6 years ago.
No, absolutely.
And compounded, every single one of us can make a difference.
I had one Nestle product in my house, and you kicked my ass for it.
I mean, all we need to do. We could start this evening, all of us here on this particular.
All right, who do you want to boycott?
Hold on a minute, and then we're going to get accused of bullying. You're absolutely right.
We could stay right. Let's do it. Let's actually begin this thing right now.
Peter, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But I have seen it before where we've taken a petrol station before and everyone said, right, don't fill up from there. But it actually didn't make any difference.
Well, I mean, I think
enough mass.
I think once you get critical mass, it could be called. Yeah. We could call ourselves the critical mass.
Trouble is, we don't have a universal. Because I want some answers here. We don't have a universal platform because the one that we're currently on, without mentioning names, is what do you call it? Censored.
I've got no idea.
Yes. Yes, a lot of what is going against the current grain is being removed.
Oh, well, we don't want to worry about a little thing like that.
Censorship, yeah, but we also don't want to lose our beautiful group of sort of, what is it, almost 30,000 people, because they're what most people don't know is that these groups are being trolled every day by AI bots, which are looking for words like VACCINE and 5 and then the gorilla word, and they're looking for that. And the moment they see that lots of that come up, me as the group administrator, I get this all the time saying this post is not allowed, this post is not true, this post, and actually in my belief a lot of them are true. But unfortunately, we just have to play the game until everybody in one mass moves to a different platform, which I don't think people are ready to do yet.
Yeah, but that's a great message to our followers, is to please use code write it on a piece of paper and hold it up or whatever. Be creative. Don't say the actual words, and then we're happy to talk about it.
Yeah, this is a whole new world to me. I kind of don't. I'm not kind of part of this reality, but I was unaware of that. But I think the human spirit is probably. And who are these people? Who are these policemen and women? I want to meet them. I want to sit down and talk to them.
Yeah.
Well, you did at the anti-fracking camp.
Oh, I did, yes.
You were quite vocal. But I do have to say about that is, you talk about rebellion, but there were young kids who came from up north, and I thought when I first met them were very anarchistic, but I fell in love with every single one of them because they had the courage to walk in front of those trucks. And I just tell you, I did it once, and it's really frightening. It's really frightening to have police right treading on your heels, trying to gouge out your skin and tripping you up. And it's such courage. And when they finished there and Bolcombe had to close because we were holding up the trucks and they were beyond their time limit and everything, then the kids went up north. They did it on those sites. And where's fracking today? Do we have a moratorium at the moment?
I think we do in the UK. Hope so.
Yeah.
Again, that it was just such an insane proposition.
Yeah.
It was such an insane proposition that we were to burn more carbon in the face of global warming. That this was in any way, that this should have been acceptable. Should have been acceptable to the political establishment, the religious establishment, was utterly shameful. And I can say that there are very few right things that I've done in my life, but to have been at Bolcombe was the right thing to have done.
Yeah, me too.
And and I hope the establishment understood that this thing called climate change, there is no excuse. They have no more excuses. And using economic welfare is not an excuse to actually continue to pump out carbon, which is exacerbating the problem. And we've just all got to wake up to this.
So when I was filming, right at the beginning, I asked a set of 6 questions. Let's finish on that, Peter. So I think you probably did it at the time as well. If you had a minute on camera to speak to the world leaders, the corporate leaders, in brief, what would you say to them?
You've put him right on the spot there, Luna.
Yeah, I have. Sorry.
I'd say, please stand up. You turn to your left. You embrace the person on your left. You look them in the eye. And you go around the entire room and you embrace every single person in the room. And then you sit down. And then we have 15 minutes silence. And then we begin again.
Oh, I love that. Beautiful. Second question, what would you say to the media of the world for the responsibility they have for creating our reality?
I'd say, brothers and sisters, it is time that you woke up. It is time that you realize this planet is heading for a crisis engendered and fueled by human behavior. And your behavior is absolutely critical at this time. You are either going to be part of the solution, you're going to remain as part of the, you're going to be part of the solution, or you are going to remain as part of the problem. If you continue to remain as part of the problem, which you are now, then you will just continue to lose audience share. And rightly so.
And finally, to the children, what would you say to the children about their future, about the future?
I would say, I'm sorry. I have let you down really badly. I would ask them to take off their shoes and socks, and I would wash their feet. And that if I had a key to the kingdom, I would give it to them. because right now, adult human beings are messing it up very badly. And we need to hear that from them. We need to hear that from Greta, and we need to take it really to heart. But first of all, I would apologize, because the future that we are bequeathing them is nothing to be in any way proud of whatsoever. We have let them down very, very. And it is in acknowledging that truth that there is hope. There is no hope without acknowledging that truth.
Yeah. You're beautiful. Thank you, Peter. Bless you. Beautiful message.
You're lovely. You're lovely. You're all lovely.
Theo, Papa Theo, have you got anything to say?
Have a dance.
Apart from
I just know.
Bye, rent.
Just a big thank you to you, Peter, for sharing that with us. We've had so many beautiful comments coming through this evening. Thank you to every single one of you for all around the world. We have people watching us in Australia, in Tasmania. We've got people all over the world. You know, they're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to listen. That's astonishing.
Don't lose heart. Don't give up on love. Don't give up on love. Don't give up on grace. And you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not in this alone. We are with you. We're with you, my brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Powerful. Last word, Theo.
I'm just going to say good night. I think.
So, as most of you know, hopefully, if you haven't already seen the film, you can rent it for just $4.95 by going to our website, which Theo will put up. It's timeofthesixthsunmovie.com. Or you can buy our beautiful digital package. If you click on it, you can see everything that includes. We're not selling at the moment the beautiful physical packages, but they will come back once this is all over. But yeah, bless you. Or there's a donation button where you can make a donation, and that will go towards our heart fund. There's lots of projects with the elders that we'd like to help. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Do you want to tell us who we've got next Monday?
You tell us.
I put you on the spot. Next Monday, we have Adam Yellowbird, who's in our film.
Yeah.
Adam has been working amazingly, gathering the elders together for years and years now. It came to him in a vision, and he's been working with the Kogi and all the indigenous tribes around the world. And he's fabulous. So he'll have a lot to say for himself.
Yeah. So
that's Monday, and Thursday is
Yakov
Darling Khan. Fabulous. Yeah. We're not short for speakers, are we?
We're not. This is fantastic.
Charles Eisenstein has just said that he just wrote me an email just before we started saying, I'd love to chat with you. So we will have him on ASAP.
Charles Eisenstein for president.
I agree. I just think you were spot on there.
You know, it seems unthinkable, but I'm being completely real about this.
Yeah. Should we start a petition?
Well, I think we have to put it out there. I think we need to put it to him, but I think we just need to put it out there as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask him first.
Yeah, I'll ask him first. I'll ask him on show. Peter Owen Jones says.
Oh, surprise! Oh,
fabulous. So lovely to talk to you. Thank you, Peter.
You too, lovely people. You two go well now.
Yes, and we have a screening to do in your church, I believe.
Yes, there is a rumor that I have heard this too.
Okay. More later.
And I'm also going to put up, we've got this amazing lady called Charlie who has been transcribing these
Charlie
for us. I'm just going to put it into the comments right here, right now. And so you've got the Lynn Franks talk, your Jorge, you've got Jeff and Linda. That hasn't worked at all because it's spread it over 6 posts. I'll do it again afterwards. Never try and do stuff like that on the fly.
No. And we'll have Peter's transcribe soon.
Yes, we will. So that'll get transcribed as well. So this lovely viewer, Charlie, she's been taking every one of these live talks that we've done and transcribing for us at no charge as a gift to us, because she knows what we're doing. So isn't that beautiful?
It is.
It's lovely, that.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Luna, and good night to every single one of you, and good morning wherever you are in the world, or good afternoon. We are global. It's lovely. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
See you Monday. Bye-bye. Bye, Peter. You can stay on, Peter, if you like.